Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Man, he's okay. What's up, guys? In this video, I want to talk about the outer planets, right? The esoteric nature of the outer planets. What do the outer planets really mean, right? Because you know what? Um, in traditional astrology, they didn't know about the outer planets, so they formed astrology without the outer planets knowledge. And when we discovered the outer planets, then we had to sort of make sense of them within astrology because these are huge influences, right? I mean, if we take the notion that the planets themselves, because their physical bodies are influencing us in certain ways, then we have to make sense of the outer planets because even though Pluto is a little bit smaller, Uranus and Neptune are not. Uranus and Neptune are freaking huge. They're bigger than Mars or Venus or Mercury, right? They're not quite as big as Jupiter and Saturn, but they're huge, right? So they're surely going to have a major influence on our life, right? And Pluto, although not as big, seems to be extremely important. I mean, just by transit, just by observation alone, we know it is. So what do these planets really mean? Um, One thing we can look at, so I'm going to share my screen. Guys, hit that like button if you can, and subscribe if you haven't already, and book a reading with me. Macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. So this is the traditional view of astrology, the Thema Mundi, it's called. Thema, um, Mundi means world. Theme is, I guess, theme, right? But anyway, so they were orienting it towards the luminaries, right? They thought the luminaries, that's a great way to start. And they said, okay, well, we have the luminaries, we're going to start there. Then out from there, we have Mercury ruled signs, Virgo on one side, Gemini on the other. Then Venus ruled signs, Libra, Taurus. Then Mars ruled signs, Aries, Scorpio. Jupiter rules signs, Sag, Pisces. Saturn rules signs, Aquarius, Capricorn, right? And then from this association, which this all makes sense, and I have no problem with this, right? But from this association, they said that the aspects are related to this. So, for instance, the square would be a Mars nature. The opposition is a Saturnian nature. The trine is Jupiterian, right? Because of is a trine from each luminary goes to Jupiter. The opposition from each luminary goes to Saturn. The sextile, I guess, would be a Venusian nature, right? And then the semi-sextile doesn't get anything. And there's no inconjunct here because of this. But the problem is that Saturn doesn't represent the opposition. It just doesn't. I mean, let's get real. First of all, you have to start with Aries. Aries is the starting point, and the opposition is a relationship. It's a harmonious relate. Whenever like two people come together in opposition, well, they could be fighting, but they could be marrying or making out or having sex. You know what I mean? It's not. These aren't Saturnian things. Like the Libra, it really represents the two opposites of relationship. That's why the problem with the Thema Mundi in classical astrology is that they were limited by Saturn, right? They were only Saturn bound, and they did not have the influence of the outer planets. The outer planets, when they were discovered, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Each was discovered on their own, but when they were discovered, there was a sort of spiritual significance of the influence on mankind, right? And people talk about like, oh, when Uranus was discovered, all these technologies were discovered, and blah blah. I don't, that's not my point. But the point is that like there are correlations between humanity's development and the discovery of these planets, right? And so without the knowledge of the outer planets, they were forming an astrology which is good, but it's not great, right? And just because people have this idea that like old things are true and new things are wrong, like something like that, like right, like anything that's old is true. And it's like it's an insanity because people 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago could be just as wrong as somebody writing a book today, or some schmuck writing a online something about whatever astrology, right? It doesn't really matter. Like older people are not, they used to think that leeches and bloodletting were good medicine, right? They were wrong. They used to think that the diseases were caused by humors, right? They were fucking wrong, right? They were wrong about so many things in the past, like so many things, like almost everything, categorically, like pretty much everything. Of course, like they're spiritually they had knowledge and wisdom, right? So it's not like they were wrong about everything, but like a lot of things they're freaking wrong about. So just because something is old and like it's in an old book, old astrological text, people are like, oh, this is the real astrology. It may be, but it might be totally wrong, right? Like you can't just make something like right because it's old. I mean, it's stupid. And it's just like it's idiotic. It's insane. Like that's just wrong and dumb. No, just plain no. Like the way to measure the aspects is from Aries. Let's look at that because that's really important. This is my natal chart, but it could be any. Let's do the transits. I don't want to. We've looked at my natal chart plenty. And let's move it to Aries rising. All right. So Aries rising. Let me just get it right in the beginning. So I don't know. Just for fun. The starting point of the zodiac is 0 degrees Aries, and all aspects are measured from Aries, right? Okay, so the opposition is in fact Libra. That's the nature of the opposition because that's Libra's nature. I mean, that's literally what the signs mean, the signs in the houses. The signs in the houses get their nature from the order that they're in. Um, so Libra is a great example. It's opposite Aries. Aries is number one. Aries is first, and that's primal to Aries. I mean, it's integral. Number one, the being number one is like integral to Aries nature. We can draw all sorts of conclusions just because Aries is first, right? Taurus comes after. Taurus comes after Aries, and it deals with all the secondary things like of the first house, which would be like wealth and assets, appearances, aesthetics, the voice. I mean, the body parts. Aries is the face or the head. Taurus is the mouth, the voice, food, right? The way we look, the way we not our face, but like what all the adornments, the way we dress up and all that. Gemini's the communication, what comes after the voice. So the nature of a semi-sextile is sort of you could say it's Taurian or Piscean, right? The nature of the sextile is Gemini or Aquarian. It's air ruled by air, right? The fourth house, Cancer. The correlation is the physical structure or the shell of the crab, right? The home, the past, the family. So yeah, and these are the nature of the square, Capricorn, Cancer, right? Whenever you have a square, the dominant square, the leading square, the superior square side is Capricorn, right? It takes the front, it takes the outer influence. And the inferior square side is Cancer, and it takes the hidden side, the interior side of things. Trines are fire nature, Leo, Sag, right? So being Jupiterian, that there makes sense, in fact, but also Sun, Leo, right? But they're fire nature, the trines. Leo gets his nature from being number 5. Number 5 is prime. 5 is good for everything, right? 5 doesn't break down. 5 is solid and harmonious and complete, right? And it's just like we have 5 fingers on each hand. It's just one of those most basic round numbers that's good for everything. So it's like, a lot of association. Obviously children can be drawn from the fact that it's post cancer where we have the family, and then children come after that. We have sex at home in bed at night, right? And then come children. Sex is not fifth house. That's a wrong interpretation. That's people who don't understand archetypes. And just because it's written in an old book, people are like, well, that's the reality of astrology because people writing in old books make astrology. No, you fucking idiots. That's not what makes astrology, right? They didn't even have Uranus. They weren't even aware of really astrology. So, I mean, the classical astrologers did not have a Uranus. They were not even aware of, it's like when you're a kid and you have all these ideas and like you're 12 years old and you think you know everything. And then like 20 years later, you're like, oh yeah, I was dumb back then. I was a kid, you got to forgive yourself, but I certainly wouldn't go back to my 12-year-old self to ask myself for advice or life lessons or how to be like, what to do about anything, right? Except like what 12-year-olds do, right? I'm not going to look to the past of astrology to just be like, well, they knew everything and now we don't know anything. We just need to go back. And that's Saturnian. Like if you are of that mindset, you haven't even tapped into your Uranus. You haven't even broken past your Saturn. You're still trapped by Saturn, right? The sixth house, which is an aspect, they call it aversion. Is Virgo an aversion? Is Scorpio an aversion? Right? Do these not have natures of their own? Is there no nature to Virgo? It's just we don't talk about Virgo. We don't look at Virgo. We ignore Virgo. We ignore sixth house. Anything in the sixth house, it's averse to the ascendant. Therefore, we just freaking ignore it. No, it's not. It's an aspect. And planets that are actually at the degree of the ascendant in the sixth or eighth house influence the face. They show up in the face. So like this idea that they can't see each other is just wrong. It's stupidly wrong. Like it's fucking wrong. And like fight me about it because it's 100% wrong. And I can pull up charts to 100% demonstrate this, that it's fucking wrong. Like they're just wrong. They're like putting leeches on. Like people are like, oh yes, old astrologers are like, like the equivalency of putting leeches on them. They're like, yes, that's great medicine. That's great astrology. No, it's not. It's fucking stupid. It's stupid. Like, let's just be real about it, right? They're just like, oh, the opposition's Saturnian. No, it's fucking not. Are you married? You fucking idiot. Is that not an opposition? Is that not another person? I mean, like, it's just like this abstraction that's like completely removed from reality or logic or anything. It's stupid. It's fucking dumb, right? So I'm just tired of this like reverence, revering this old bullshit astrology. When of course there's good things in old astrology, and I'll use old techniques, but not all of it is good, and we need to be able to discern. That's what Mercury is for, right? Have a strong Mercury. Get your Mercury out. Put your brain on, right? You woke up without your brain and you didn't put it on in the morning. It's like walking around without any pants. Put your fucking brain on, right? Have some discernment, right? Just because it's written in an old book doesn't make it true. Fucking morons. The inconjunct is the nature of the sixth and eighth house, right? Just like the square is the nature of Capricorn and Cancer, or 10th and 4th house. The trine has a fire nature, Leo, Sag, right? And the sextile is air nature, right? So all the aspects have their nature, right? And the conjunction is the Aries nature, right? It's the most potent. So yeah, that's that. So what about the outer planets? Like what influence do they have? One thing they have really is it's kind of meta because Uranus especially signifies astrology. So how do they have an astrology without Uranus? Well, astrology didn't really come to its own self-awareness until Uranus was invented, right? They had astrology, but it was limited. They had the Thema Mundi, and the Thema Mundi is great, but it's a Saturnian viewpoint. It's not a very enlightened viewpoint. It lacks Uranus, right? It lacks the outer planets. Therefore, how can it be astrologically mature? It's astrologically immature. It's a very immature version of astrology, an incomplete astrology. And we know this is evident by the very fact that I could pull up a whole list of astrologers, which I'm going to do, who have extremely prominent outer planets and outer planet signs. And here's one of the significations of the outer planets. They rule three signs. They co-rule three signs. They're co-associated with three signs. Scorpio, Pluto and Scorpio, Aquarius and Uranus, and Pisces and Neptune, right? Now some people said, "Oh, that's not the way that we make associations. We look at the thema mundi and blah blah blah, and it's messing all that up." Well, fuck your thema mundi. It's wrong anyway. Like, because you're starting with the luminaries instead of Aries. So, like, go fuck yourself, right? I'm really not entertained. I don't give a shit about preserving the past and we have to honor all the old people. Fuck the old people. Fuck the old books. Who gives a shit? Right? If they're wrong, it's not that they're wrong, it's just that they're old and they didn't have the information. They were walking around on, on their feet and horses and shit. Like, they didn't have bicycles back then. Like, these people were living in the fucking Stone Age. What are we gonna put them on a pedestal for their fucking intelligence? Go fuck yourself. Like, it's stupid. It's like they didn't even know about Uranus. Like, how good could they be as far as like astrology is concerned? They're like putting leeches on themselves. I mean, like, yes, we're very advanced. I mean, they were advanced in some ways. I'm not like trying to like, shit all over them, but they just did not understand a lot of things that we understand today. They were immature. They were children, right? Just very briefly, I'm gonna run through each one of these. And so, like, Aquarius, Uranus, you're gonna see a lot of outer planets. So Neptune, Scorpio, third house. I don't want to take long, but I'm just gonna go through these. Okay, Stephen Arroyo, Scorpio, right? Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Ascendant Lord Mars, right? Sun, Neptune, right? North Node, Uranus, third house. The third house, not real. Moon in Aquarius, 11th house. It's the outer planets and the signs that the outer planets rule that all these freaking astrologers are loaded with, and yet they're like, oh, the outer planets are not really important or not that important. Go fuck yourself. Like, you're dumb. Moon in Aquarius, Aquarius rising, Scorpio stellium with Pluto, South Node, right? I mean, come on. Venus, Uranus, 10th house, 11th house, Jupiter, Mars. I don't even know who all these people are, but I mean, yeah. Sun and Mercury, Cancer, 8th house, right? Neptune conjunct the MC. Uranus, Saturn, Moon conjunction, right? South Node, Pisces. All of these are going to be real significant in the South Node, Scorpio. Neptune in the 11th house, Uranus in the 8th house. Sun, Pluto, Mercury in the first whole sign house. North Node, Uranus, exact, and Moon in the 11th house. Right? 11th house being Aquarian ruled. Aquarian significations. Neptune in the third whole sign house. Chiron will show up as well. Chiron definitely, it has that outer, it goes from Venus, or sorry, Saturn to Uranus. So it does have the Uranian tinges of, the outer planets, right? North Node in Scorpio, South Node, Mercury, Uranus, Moon, Pluto, 8th house, Cancer, right? Neptune in the 10th whole sign house. Scorpio rising with Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. North Node, Uranus, 8th house. Pluto, Saturn, MC, Pluto, right? Moon in Pisces. Neptune, 12th whole sign, 11th quadrant. I mean, astrology is literally dominated by the outer planets and the outer planet signs. And to sort of negate them is just fucking dumb, right? It's fucking like piss off level dumb. North Node Uranus, right? Um, Saturn, Pluto in the ninth. Neptune, Mars. I mean, everyone has these outer planets, but they're very prominent with astrologers, right? Scorpio rising, North Node Uranus. And some it's more strong than others, but so Cancer rising, what a water sign. Moon and Mars in Scorpio, Neptune in the fourth, North Node, co-present with Pluto and Chiron, particularly. South Node Aquarius, Saturn, Uranus in the 12th. I mean, there's probably like, so many aspects that are just I'm not really paying that much attention to, but so Moon, Jupiter, Pluto in the 12th, Uranus as well, co-present in the same sign, Mercury, Neptune, Saturn in Scorpio. Sun and Uranus in Scorpio, North Node in Scorpio, Pluto, Mercury, right? Neptune in the seventh on the descendant, MC in Aquarius, right? It's literally every single time. Neptune rising. So yeah, Venus, Sun, Uranus, Mercury, all in the eighth whole sign house. South Node Aquarius, Pluto and Jupiter in Pisces in the 10th whole sign house. Right. So Pluto conjunct the ascendant, along with a bunch of other planets, stellium. Neptune on the third cusp, intellect. North Node in Aquarius, Uranus in the 11th, 12th whole sign house, but 11th quadrant in Cancer. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I could keep going with these. These all have the same themes, including my own chart, right? So it's abundantly evident that astrology is it's very meta because the outer planets, especially Uranus, describe astrology, and without them, we can't really understand. Before pre outer planet awareness, we didn't have the full understanding of astrology because we didn't have the outer planets, right? We didn't understand the planets that actually rule astrology. Therefore, the astrology was very limited. And now we have an abundance of awareness of astrology, and the outer planets influence every single astrologer heavily, right? A lot of times they're just, it's like such a direct correlation with Scorpio and Uranus and Aquarius and even Neptune and Pisces. Neptune and Pisces, I would say, has the least sort of correlation, but still strongly. I mean, a lot of times you'll see that. Because Pisces is not very logical usually, it's more intuitive, but then like maybe intuitive astrologers have more Pisces Neptune influence. But anyway, it still is. And yeah, so that's not only astrology, it's all sorts of occultism, woo stuff, everything that's like outside the realms of Saturn, which is science, right? Anything above and beyond science is going to be associated with the outer planets. And the three signs that are correlated with the outer planets, which are Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces, right? Those are the three signs that have that expanded outer planet associations. So, and they, you know, they are more, they lend themselves to more psychic ability, even Aquarius, right? And like outward thinking. You know, Cancer, you could say as well. I definitely have seen a lot of Cancer come up in these sort of things. But it's trying Scorpio and Pisces, so that's probably why it's water sign. But yeah, Cancer tends to be much more sort of grounded and earthy and um, protective. And anyway, um, so yeah, I wanted to put this out there just because you know, I think it needs to be said and acknowledged, and I think they're wrong. I think the old astrology is lacking. I think we need to acknowledge the shortcomings of the oldest Saturnian astrology. I'm going to call it Saturnian astrology. It's very good in many ways. I mean, don't get me wrong. I use a lot of that stuff. It's just not complete, right? It's like a foundation without the elaborate, you know, uh, um, uh, extra it's foundational. Sorry, my analogy was not forming properly. It's foundational, and it's not the full house, it's not the full building, it's not the full development of what astrology is and potentially can be, because we have these outer planets and they're huge and they're very extremely significant and important. We can't ignore them, and they do associate with the signs of that, you know, previously you know, Aquarius, Scorpio, Pisces. Um, we need them. And the old Thema Mundi, good for the past, but it's not really 100%. We need to measure from Aries, and that's where we get the aspects nature from, right? So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this talk. So I hope you found it interesting. Please hit the like button if you can. And you know, I'm Uranian myself. I have Uranus rising in Scorpio retrograde, so I'm not gonna go with the grain. I'm just not. So if you're expecting that, if you're expecting me to be textbook astrologer, you know, doing the same boring stuff that everyone else is doing, I guess, you know, I'm not going to, so you're gonna be disappointed. That's not my style. I never was like that, even well before astrology, you know. I was a punk rocker, metalhead, a misfit. You know, I never fit in with anyone, rebellious to a fault. So don't look for the status quo with me, because you're not gonna get it at all, right? Um, no, I'm a trailblazer. I'm blazing a new path in astrology. It's not really a new path. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not trying to. It's just the way it is. But anyway, guys, that's it for now. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, book a reading with me, Macro Gold Machine at Yahoo. That's my email address. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And I will see you again soon. Macro Gold Machine signing off. He's okay. Mediocre astrologer. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm like on autopilot. Mediocre astrologer. Yeah. Eh. Guys, laugh it off. Take a victory laugh. Win before you win. And I will see you again soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.